So I certainly feel very honored to be able to talk to you today. The topic that I'm going to raise is optimizing mathematics in Nigeria. Okay, so we talk a lot about optimization. I think that the optimization is part of the title of this conference. So I want to apply these ideas to a system that's very important to all of us. So this slide is just to give you some idea of my own recent activities. I have been very blessed this year to be involved in a number of research groups. And so if you look at these, so I am a mathematician. I'm not a computer scientist, I'm a mathematician. But if you look at my list of publications, you will not find a single paper that was published in a mathematical journal. You can see that there's really quite a variety of journals that I've been able to publish in: algorithms, social science, sustainability, symmetry, here's optimization, and operations research. I think this is one of the wonderful things about mathematics, is that it can be applied in so many areas. Another thing that may be obvious from this list is I did not write any papers on my own. All these are collaborations. From the names, you may see that some names are from Africa, some are from US. In many cases, the first author is a student. And in many cases also, the first author is not a mathematician. The collaborations have been interdisciplinary. So my current projects are similarly spread out, some involving disease control. This one is analysis of social science databases, machine learning, some numerical integration. I have a grant from the Air Force, and more disease control, things like this. So I am certainly trying to move more in the direction of mathematics applied to problems of pressing interest. Of course, with COVID, there is a great deal of interest in mathematical modeling. One area that I'm trying to move into is data science applied to health. Mathematics wedded together with data science has a lot of opportunities, and especially in areas applied to health. In the US, this is important, not apart from COVID, because the population is aging, and of course, health is always a pressing issue in places like Africa. All right, so let me outline my presentation, which will probably not last the entire time. I'm going to present you an optimization problem, and when you have a system to optimize, according to the usual theory of control theory, you use controls to direct the behavior of this system and to modify it and channel it according to how you want it to behave. So I'm going to suggest 4 controls, then a conclusion, and then perhaps we can have some discussion. So just to make a disclaimer, this talk reflects my own perspective. This is not the official position of anybody, except some ideas that I have from my perspective. And we all know in part. So many points may be controversial, and I hope to stimulate some discussion. I think that this is an area, this is a topic that certainly is of a grave interest to many of you, and I'm sure that many have thought deeply about this, and we can learn from each other. Okay. All right, so the premise that I'm going to present to you is that academic mathematics in Nigeria is a system. It's a system whereby young mathematicians are trained, and mathematicians and non-mathematicians are exposed to mathematics and trained for future careers. And it's also an area where people make their entire career. So it involves people's livelihoods, it involves people's future. It's a very key system. So systems function well when they are optimized. So I think it's good for us who are involved in this system to step back and look and see, is this system really functioning at optimal level? Is it acting most efficiently? All right. So what does so we are mathematicians, that's true, and what we do is mathematics, but I think let's step back and look at our own practice of our own profession from a mathematical point of view. We shouldn't just keep on doing things because that's the way we've been doing it. We should see, are things functioning well? Can we actually apply some of our mathematical concepts and intuitions to improving the way the system is working? So optimization requires a deep understanding of the system, including the problem areas as well as potential strengths. I think that's not controversial. Number two, I say optimization requires identification of effective controls, which can channel the system into optimal behavior. So you have some factors that the system has that you cannot control directly. So you need to identify some factors that can be controlled and hopefully find some way to use these factors to improve the behavior. Okay. Number three, application of control theoretic concepts and techniques to implement controls in the most cost-effective manner. Once you've identified controls, you still need to identify what combination of controls to use and how to implement them in the most effective way. All right, so that's what I'm laying out. That's the topic I propose. So let's take a look at some of these things and take a deep look at mathematics in Nigeria from a mathematical perspective. Okay. All right, so let's start first with understanding the system, which, as I said, is necessary in order to optimize. Now, I would propose that the key components of the system, the really key components, are human resources. Of course, there are other things involved. There are facilities and so on, but the people involved is the most precious and the most important, and certainly the key resource. You can learn without classrooms, you can learn without blackboards, but you can't learn without people. Okay. So we can identify certainly four subgroups within this set of human resources. They're undergraduate and graduate students, they're faculty, junior faculty, and senior faculty. So let's see some of the challenges that these different groups face. And I'm sure that you can probably add more to the list that I have put here. Those, I think many of you know that I have spent quite a bit of time in Nigeria. I've taught at, well, 2 universities explicitly, and then I've delivered workshops and interacted with several others. And these are just some of the challenges that I'm aware of. I'm not going to talk about them in detail. You can look at the list and see and add for yourself and see if you agree or disagree. I don't really want to focus too much on the negatives, but there certainly are very significant challenges involved that people in the system face. Now, we should not be dismayed by challenges. Challenges are the seed bed for opportunity, but we should be recognize that there certainly are significant obstacles within the that are being faced in order to improve the system. And I think that we can all agree that there's much room for making the system to function better. Certainly, the system does produce some very excellent results. But as far as the mean level, the average level of product, if you think of product as the product of students that come out of the mathematical system, I would say that there's something that leaves to be desired. One thing I'm going to talk about is problem solving. In my experience, there is a real difficulty here that students who come out of the Nigerian mathematical system are not well equipped in problem solving. They may know theories, they may have some favorite techniques, but there's more involved to problem solving than just familiarity with techniques, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so there's also a great deal of strengths within the system, and the strengths, just like I said, the resources are the people, the strengths are within the people, and the character of the people involved. I've developed great admiration for the personnel, the faculty, who have been sustaining this system in spite of a number of these grave difficulties, and the spirit of collaboration and innovation that I've seen. I've been very impressed, and I feel very honored to have worked with some of these excellent people. So we certainly want to leverage these strengths in addressing the issues that face Nigerian mathematics. Okay, two observations. I can classify the challenges that are being faced by the system into two types. One is lack of resources. Certainly the facilities. I think many of the challenges that I mentioned are due to lack of compensation. I've been aware, I've seen graduate students earning their PhD cannot make much progress because they're working full-time at the same time. Professors cannot engage in serious research because they're in many cases, their salary at their own university is not sufficient, so they are forced to go to other universities and teach in secondary positions, or they're overburdened because they have large classes and they have too much administrative responsibilities. The classes are huge. As I said, the facilities are not particularly good. So a lot of these have to do simply with lack of resources or lack of funding. Others are due to cultures and attitudes. One sad aspect that is part of the system is cheating. And certainly I've had firsthand experience of this, that I was, in some of my classes, I was not able to give quizzes because they were meaningless. Half the papers were copied from half the other papers, which was a very sad fact. So there are some mental there are some mental challenges that need to be dealt with. So I do want to put forward the proposition that culture change catalyzes resource change. Culture change catalyzes resource change. Okay, so and these two factors, there's the mental and the physical. One might say that if the physical changes, the mental will change, but I question whether that's true. I think that the mental, if attitudes change, that will produce changes in the physical condition. I point as an example China. As is well known, China is a tremendous success story in technology. And I had the good fortune to be able to observe that firsthand. I went to China in 1985, and stayed there for 5 years. So I was able to see the transition of China out of very backward country into basically to leapfrog past the U.S. in many areas in terms of infrastructure, in terms of development. The internet in China is better than the U.S. Transportation system is better than the U.S. In some areas of technology, China has surpassed U.S. within a very short span of 30 years. And there's one key point in this development that can be identified, which is associated with the year 1977. Now, if you know something about Chinese history, there was a period called the Cultural Revolution, which was instigated by Mao Zedong and his associates, where it was a period where there was political upheaval, that many intellectuals were forced from their jobs and became, I know personally, professors who who during that period became janitors and had to clean toilets. Some were sent out to the countryside. Students were removed from the universities. The universities instead became political study grounds, and no serious study took place. 1977 marks the end of this period when China changed course and started on a more less political and more pragmatic path. And the class of 1977 consisted of students who had not had the advantage of university education. But these students were students who had been put off for several years. They were committed. They had drive. They had ambition. They wanted to go somewhere. They knew where they were, and they wanted to be somewhere different. These students now form the backbone of Chinese technology. Many of them came to the U.S. You'll find many of them in leading positions well, many are now retired, but you'll find many of them in leading positions in American universities, and they are the ones who sponsored more Chinese students who came in later generations and who've gone back and have built Chinese science and technology. So for these students, lack of technology, lack of resources was not an obstacle. They, because of the drive and the will, they were able to overcome these difficulties, and as I said, lay the foundation for modern China's progress. So you can also make a case that a similar thing happened in U.S. The flourishing of U.S. technology is really not due to can be attributed to sources outside of U.S. Around World War II or following World War II, there was a huge influx of brains from Europe, from Russia, from China, from other places, and this has catalyzed culture change. When I was working for Motorola or Freescale, I would say that half or more were foreign-born. And this, so it was these people who really want to make a change, who had seen the other side and wanted to make a difference. These were the ones who were driving technological change in the U.S. All right. So I mentioned that in any system, if you want to optimize, you need to identify controls. So here are 4 controls that I want to talk about briefly, and just raise the possibility. And again, I'm not going to say I have solutions. I'm not going to say I have the best solutions. I'm not going to say I have all solutions. But I think we have to start considering solutions and evaluating, and seeing that this really is a problem, that we can't just let things go on as they've been going on, and we need to consider some very radical changes to see if we can change the system, because if we want to go from lagging behind to in the forefront, some very serious changes have to be made. Okay, so the 4 controls I'm going to mention are problem solving, mentoring, evangelizing, and empowering. Problem solving, mentoring, evangelizing, and empowering. And I want to explain what I mean by these in the current context. I mean, these words have different meanings in different contexts. So let's start with problem solving. Okay, so as I said, there's the success story in problem solving in China. Chinese students are problem-solving machines. You can kind of get some idea about the Chinese approach to education by the way that they teach how to write. So I do know about this, both from my own experience in China and that my wife is Chinese. So I see how this works. If you know that the writing in Chinese is very elaborate, and it consists of characters, and you can, well, here, let me see, I have some characters here on my last slide. If I view, let's go to, where's my slide? Okay, I go here. You can see these are Chinese characters. So it's even to make one character is not easy. Okay, so there's a great deal involved in actually learning to write. So what they do is they make papers full of squares, graph paper, and they give the student one character and they say, write this. And they write it. They fill the page with the character until they can write it, basically can write it while they're sleeping. It becomes something natural, it becomes second nature. They don't have to think about it. They don't ever hesitate. It just comes out very, very naturally. So this becomes a skill. And the Chinese approach to mathematics is quite similar. Math is a skill. It's like learning to play an instrument. And it involves this kind of action where you do things without having to think, without having to stumble, without having to hesitate. And China is very strong in this. And I think they have also succeeded in making math and science something that is emulated and valued in Chinese society. China has always valued education, and I think that's a strength of the culture. If I compare with the U.S., certainly not the people who are good in mathematics who are emulated. It's the people who are good in sports. Those are the media heroes. But in China, it was not that way. That so because of this attitude, students develop a passion for mathematics. And I would have to say, as a mathematician, if you're going to be a mathematician, it has to be a passion. It has to be a lifestyle. It has to be something that remains with you at all times. It's a part of your way of thinking. It's a part of your way of life. It affects your entire outlook. I find that this is lacking in most of my students. Many of them just have the attitude, well, I'm going to go in and do mathematics, and then I'm going to go away, and I don't think about it anymore. If you're going to do mathematics, it is something that's always with you. And the fruit of that attitude, that mathematics is just something to do once in a while, is that it becomes something temporary. They take a class, they learn something, and then they forget. Right? And I think that this is probably a problem that many of you instructors have faced. The students take a subject, they learn how to do it, then 1 or 2 years later, it's completely gone. It's not something that they have retained or made a part of their own intellectual makeup. So same as if you play a musical instrument, if you're a professional musician, music does not go away. Music is something that rings inside your mind even while you're not doing music. So mathematics, to be really successful in mathematics, that has to happen. And this is, so I would say that problem solving is a part of this. Problem solving means that you look at a situation and you say, and you try to resolve it with mathematics. It's not just learning a theory. It's not just learning a technique. It's learning how to look at things and say, well, what am I going to do to solve this? And life is about solving problems. So when you become involved in problem solving in mathematics and you have this kind of attitude, then soon you start looking at life in a similar way. Okay. And I think that problem solving and attitude towards solving problems simply requires that you do a lot of problem solving. Uh, now, and until it becomes something, it becomes a mental habit. And I would suggest to you that the computer, the internet, artificial intelligence can now assist in this. There are some resources available that make it easier, more convenient to expose the student to problem solving. In the recent COVID epidemic, American schools were forced to go online at very short notice. And of course, this was a very difficult transition. So many of them have resorted to some of these online resources that were already there and actually quite well developed. One of them, which you may or may not be familiar with, is Khan Academy. Khan Academy was developed by Salman Khan. Now he has support from Microsoft. He has developed a lot of online materials, including actually complete courses. On Khan Academy, you can find a complete calculus course, including assignments, graded assignments, tests, videos, exercises, and all of these the student can do, without the direct intervention of an instructor. Okay. So here's a screenshot from Khan Academy for the calculus class. This is actually my wife's advanced placement. This is college level calculus class that she teaches for high school. And you can see that they have several units, limits of continuity, differentiation, and they have several exercises in each of these units. They have videos that go along with these units. And this is, am proposing that more and more this type of resource be integrated into the Nigerian mathematical system. I'm sure that you're aware of some of these, but the fact that we're going online, I think now is the time to take advantage of these types of resources and make permanent change in the way that you that mathematics is done. At the lower levels, what is needed is drill. What is really needed is drill. The students need to develop these skills, these automatic skills, and part of that, and this gives students an opportunity to drill and to have feedback. So this is one. So you can see some other examples. These are the topics in Khan Academy. Here's some problems. The problems are multiple choice, which is not ideal, but it does give students a chance to exercise their knowledge. I would say it's not complete, but it's a good way to start. Okay. Another site is yutsumura.com. And there are many other sites. This was put out by an individual. This site has a number of problems at a higher level, so advanced undergraduate problems in areas like linear algebra, abstract algebra, and analysis, and so on. The problems are presented and then also solutions. Okay, all right. Now, so I say, don't look for the nail that fits the hammer, look for the hammer that fits the nail. I think too often, both in the US and in Nigeria, the focus is on teaching techniques. And then the student becomes involved in techniques, has some familiarity with techniques and theories, and then says, okay, I know this technique, I can use this technique, let me find a problem that I can use this technique on. But that's like saying, I have a nice hammer, let me find a nail that will fit this hammer. Now in practice and in life, you're not interested in the hammer, you're interested in getting the nail into the wall. What you want to do is not just be able to use the hammer that you have, but be able to find an appropriate hammer to hammer in the nail that needs to be hammered in. And this is actually a skill that I had to learn on my own. Now I find that many times my own knowledge does not, my own background is not the best way to attack a problem. And I have to go out and find the right hammer. And so from experience, I've learned, I've had to develop this knowledge of finding the right hammer for the nail. But the focus should be on the nail and not on the hammer. And this is what problem solving is about. The problem is first, and you have to appropriate the technique to solve the problem, not to find the problem that suits the technique that you know. Right? You have to adapt to the problem. You can't expect the problem to adapt to you. Okay. Okay. So the control number 2 is mentoring, so if you take the point of view of a system in engineering. So I worked as a communications engineer, in wireless communications, and one of the basic principles of engineering is that if you have a system, you need to have feedback if you want your system to work optimally. If you have a communication system, the communication has to be two-way. If I'm just broadcasting my signal and I don't get some feedback from from where I'm sending the signal, then I have to broadcast everywhere. If I can get some feedback, I can direct my signal, I can adapt it, I can optimize it. So systems with feedback perform far better. And I would advance to you that the feedback within the Nigerian mathematical system is not optimally configured. Many students are in large classes, and they get very little feedback, very little direction. They study for the final, they look over the materials, but they don't have this kind of back and forth involved in improving their technique. They watch the instructors solve problems, but they don't have anybody watch them solve problems and say, well, you should improve your technique this way. You should change your approach this way. This kind of mentoring I would submit to you is the best way to prepare students to really become ingrained in mathematics. And on the other hand, you don't really know something until you can teach it. Mathematics graduates come out of school having been exposed to a lot of knowledge, but this knowledge is stagnant because they don't know how to express it, they don't know how to convey it. It's something that they've been passively exposed to, but they don't know how to pass it on. So my question is, can mentoring be built into the academic process at all stages? Another example of mentoring, there's a program called Each One Teach One, and this was a program, literacy program that started in the Philippines, where people were trained to become literate, and as part of that training, they were expected to teach another person to become literate. And because of this program, millions of people in the Philippines were taught to read. Okay, so this kind of mentoring, this kind of mentoring is very powerful, and it's explosive, because if you get this kind of mentoring going, then what you start can grow and fill the world. Of course, another example you can say from the religious perspective, you see that the growth of religions like Christianity or Islam started from one person mentoring a certain number of close associates. So that mentoring was intensive, give and take, and that one mentor was able to impart as I said, a passion and a insight that could not be imparted en masse. It required that individual interaction. So that's really what my question. Can mentoring be built into the academic process at all stages? Can students who are studying also be mentors? Right. So incentives are key. So you can tell people, well, I'd like you to help somebody else, but you have to give incentives. And so this is a real challenge, I think. Can you give people academic incentives? Can you give them cultural incentives? So that's something that this is a problem that I haven't solved, but I think that this is a control that really can change the climate of mathematics. All right. So control number 3 is evangelizing. And all right. Yes.
Professor Trump, your time is getting
It's
closer.
gone? Okay.
Try and round it up, please.
Okay, sure, that's fine. All right, so I just want to say that as a mathematician, you have a message. You have a message that is of great importance and it's great value. But you need to present it. The world will not come to you. You have to go to the world. In the collaborative projects that I've been involved in, I have been the one who has had to go out and identify people and show them what I have to offer. So this is kind of a process of evangelism, and it requires learning the other language. It requires listening and understanding how other people think. Right. So, right. So the last control I would say is empowering. As a mathematician or as a computer scientist, my attitude should be, I want to empower people outside of mathematics. So I'm one of the sad things I find when I go to Nigeria is I see by the roadside, I see people, of course, you know, this scene is very familiar to all of you, I'm sure, and you see maybe 5 or 6 people selling loaves of bread. And this is how they're spending their lives. And what I say is, this is so sad. These are people who have potential, who have intellectual ability, and they're being underutilized. And that's why I say Nigeria does not have a poverty problem. It has a productivity problem. If you solve the productivity problem, the poverty problem will go away. If you put people to work in efficient ways that produce good results, then the poverty will disappear. And efficiency requires information. So that's what mathematics can do, is that we find ways to use information more effectively. All right, so since my time is gone, I'll just say thank you very much. And sorry for taking so much time, but I hope that I've stimulated some ideas. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Trump, for that beautiful paper you have submitted.
Yes.
When one saw your title, it looked like there were a lot of fireworks on mathematics, but it looks down to earth and very communicating. So I hope everybody has enjoyed it. It's now time to ask questions. I have time for a few questions to be answered.
Okay.
If anybody wants to ask questions, you can
Yes.
signify by raising up your hands.
I want to ask a question.
Okay.
Yes.
Unmute yourself.
Yes. Where? There's no reason there.
Unmute yourself, yes. You are called on. Recognize. Ask your question.
Yeah, please.
Ask your question.
Professor Tron.
Yes.
If you look at your slide at the beginning, you looked at the problems that undergraduates faced, faculty members. You looked at, can we see that slide, please?
Sure. Yes.
Where you identified the problems that
yes.
Undergraduates, that's it. These significant challenges that exist.
Yes.
Now, these challenges and the last picture of somebody carrying bread,
yes,
and stealing bread, and this lack of productivity, they're all related. They're all tied to one single problem.
Yes.
And I want to link that also to the Chinese the transformation in China, the class of 1977, and the Cultural Revolution before that time. Don't you think that you can't have any significant change in Nigeria unless it comes from a change in a change in attitude of the government?
No.
Don't you think this problem can only change if the government creates a new environment for all of us?
No, I don't think so. I think you can't wait for the government. This has to start from the people. Give another example is civil rights in the U.S. You know about Martin Luther King. If he had waited for the government to respond to the issue of civil rights, he would still be waiting. So you can't wait for the government. I think this involves faith. You have to step ahead and make the change yourself.
Prof, this
and
is
do
not
what you can.
Prof, how can we make this kind of change? Right? It's not a political thing. We can't carry placards like Martin Luther King. We can't do. I mean, these things are deeper than. It's easy to organize a protest, but how do you want to motivate people?
Well, it's not so easy to organize protest. But this was an attitude change. What Martin Luther King was an attitude change. He said, we have this problem. We have to unite we have to unite to solve this problem together. The government is not going to help us. We have to solve this on our own by ourselves, and we can't. The government will follow. The government won't lead.
Yeah, Professor Trump.
Yes.
If I may add, I think what Dr. Fashina is pointing out is that supposing the government does not want change, so how can you play a role? So if it is repressive and it's too sensitive and to people advocating for change, suspecting, then in such a circumstance, how will the individuals come and initiate such change that you are talking about?
Well,
I think that is what Dr. Fasina is trying to point to.
Well,
yes,
okay,
yes, yes.
But the government cannot control my attitude. The government cannot. I don't need the government to stop me from cheating. I don't need the government to enable me to mentor. There are many things that I can do, and these small things accumulate. And I think that this kind of cumulative change, this attitude change within the field, will drive change in government. I mean, you can point to other examples. If I want to point to an example, if you go to the Bible, you look at Daniel. So maybe Daniel is a example that you can look at. He was a man who was part of an extremely repressive government system, and because of his own integrity and his own model, he was able to make the change from within, in spite of that repressive system. Even though the system almost tried to destroy him, he was still able to mediate the change. And I think that we all have to start waiting for the government to do something, because the government is not going to do anything. The government, the government is not, in this sense, the government has to follow. I mean, as mathematicians, you are the ones who know. You're the ones who, they can't see what you see. They can't know what you know. They can't see they can't see the potential. So I think one of the things that certainly, if you can reach out, if you can demonstrate to the government that what you do makes a difference, that you can create more efficiency, that you can create, I mean, some of the computer science projects that you're working on, right? And I think a lot of young Nigerian graduates are working on apps and things like this that are making a big change in generating income. If the government sees this, then they'll say, "Look, you've got something there. We'd better support this because it's going to help us." But the government is not going to lead in this. They don't have the vision. They don't have the knowledge.
It's okay. Another question. Who wants to ask question again?
Hello, Professor Trump.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that lecture.
Who's speaking, please?
Oh,
Who's speaking? I'm not.
Okay,
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Prof.
But Prof, you know that innovation, one of the byproduct of innovation is to create products.
Yes.
Many Nigerian products, in which case business opportunity, as you have cited the example of a computer science student coming out with package. I remember when I was in Bauchi, I supervised many projects that today some of the work are moving in the world. Like for example, computer games, other things like software that are making wave today.
Sure.
I can tell you that many academicians, those in engineering and others in Nigeria, they are creating a lot of software and other products.
Yes.
But then government is supposed to provide environment wherein industry will be cited. But the major problem is the Nigerian government itself, as the other speaker has spoken. Because, for example, if you develop product in engineering and there are no manufacturers who are to process those things, wherein they can create job opportunity for the youths. Like those youths that you see they are selling in streets. If you have industries everywhere, there is no need, for example, they will be in the street. For example, if I have an industry that can employ about 10,000 of them, they won't be on the street.
Yes.
In Nigeria today, there is insecurity problem. So investors are not coming in to invest so that they can set up industry, and the university are to produce products for industry to be marketing. So this is where government is also having its own fault. Even though there are some few serious researchers in the university and research center that are coming out with products that could have been marketed in the industry. But the environment for the industry is not there because government that is supposed to create it is not creating it. That's the major thing.
Okay. Yes. So I can add to that. I remember that Professor Chidome once. I heard him talk once, and he told me. He said that he knows a very rich man from his hometown, his home city, who lost all of his money because of the electricity problem.
Yeah.
So I mean, what I would say to this is that I mean, one of the reasons why there's lack of opportunity is the electricity problem. This is an enormous problem in Nigeria that is really choking industry. That you don't have reliable electricity, and it's expensive, and people have to use generators, and this has enormous costs. And I think that we have to take this as a challenge, and I think this is an area of outreach that we should consider this as a field for us to go into. But that means not just that means that we have to go to the field. We have to see what people in this area are doing. We have to understand the challenges that they have. We have to see what they're doing to attack the problems. We have to go in and learn and listen and not say that we have all the answers. We have to see what we have to offer to solve these problems. So if we have this idea that these are problems, we have tools to solve them, let's just tackle the problems one by one. As we tackle the problems one by one, and people see that we can solve problems, then I think the attitude will change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trump. I just want to add one little thing. What will you say about this? You talked about mentorship. What I'm seeing now is that there's dwindling interest on students or wanting to be mentored, either in the academics or outside academics.
Yes.
You see, in the academics, you are finding it many students don't want mentorship. Maybe because it is too hard or is slow in achieving their aims. Outside academics, you see that those get it quick syndrome is there. Either you
Yes.
get to power quick, you get to riches quick, you get anything you want quick. So all these things are affecting mentorship. So what do you
Yes.
have some comments or what you want to talk about?
I agree. I agree.
Yes.
I agree. I don't have all the answers. I'm only saying that you and I both know the value in mentorship, and I think my own approach is just to try to model that. Perhaps that's the best way to have an influence, is simply model that, and as you model, then other people see the results and they'll want to model also. It's true that some people want quick results, and they may get some temporary results, but it's not permanent. These changes don't come easily and they don't come quickly, but they require require consistency. They require having a, basically they do
Okay,
require faith.
let me call on Isaac Gongsin, Eastbourne.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, thank you, Mr.
Yes.
Trump.
Okay.
Let's call
Yes.
on Isaac Gongsin, Eastbourne. You have something to say quickly? Isaac, are you online? Isaac, are you hearing me? Okay, it's not.
I can
All
see his
right.
comment.
Yeah, okay. Let's look at Isaac's comment.
Yeah. He
It
says it's,
says, can I
yeah.
read it? It's
Yes. Please.
frustrating, really, when you do your best and the reward is demoralizing. To continue to do the hard things, you must strive with the background knowledge that it is not going to be easy. I think that's a very good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me go to another one. It said, Emmanuel Swam, electricity and insecurity are the major problems confronting the industrial world in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Let me go up again and see. I think somebody.
And network problems. Patients said network problems also. I mean, certainly we all know these things.
Yeah. Hassan Lateru said presentation of papers will start. Okay, this is an
Okay.
announcement. This is an
Okay. Yes.
announcement from Professor J.O. Olateru. So
Yes.
presentation of papers will start by 11 a.m. Login for applicable sessions. Login for applicable session remains unchanged. Okay. Yeah. Any more questions, please?
Moderator, please.
Yes.
Moderator,
Yes.
please.
Go on. Go on.
All right.
This is my prof, my director.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Professor Tron, let me use this opportunity to thank you most highly for this inciting presentation. Like you rightly said from the beginning, you have actually stimulated a lot of ideas and thoughts in this year presentation. As much as some of them may sound controversial, they are just hard facts as you have presented them, especially in respect of our country, Nigeria. Yeah, we may not be comfortable with some of them, but they are largely the issues that confront us here. So I thank you very much for this presentation. I just want to make some few points before maybe a question we conclude it. I know, and people say, that people give to those who solve problems and not to those who have problems. And that goes to show that we have to solve problems that confront us from each point where we find ourselves. And what do I mean by that? It is true that our problems are numerous. And if I take, for instance, the issue of mentoring, I used to know that in those days when we were young and were undergraduates, many of our lecturers, when they come into our lectures, the first 5 minutes to 10, they give us highlights about the world, about issues around us, telling us what is expected of us as young, growing students, and challenging us on roles that are expected of us. For now, if I stand to be corrected, but I know for most of us, when we are presenting our lectures to our students, oftentimes we just enter our class, present what we have, and the next thing we are out, leaving the students there, only to learn the subject matter as it were. And I think from the point of us as lecturers, as mentors, at least we need to begin to stir up the students to the extent that, yes, this is what is expected of us to do by way of education, by way of providing information, by way of directing. Yes, out of maybe a class of 30, 50, 100, you may just get less than a third that we pick from what you've said, that we carry on with what you are advising or informing. And if we continue that way, certainly we will get somewhere where our products will be more responsive than where we find ourselves. Having said that, the issue of feedback that has been talked about is really a major challenge with us. Yes,
Yes.
we give to students, we teach them, we tell them how to solve problems, we show them how to solve problems, but how are they actually doing it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How are they actually doing it? And the problems are really there for us because we have too many to contend with.
Yes, sure.
Too many to contend with. But from our own little way, if there is any way that we can develop a mechanism whereby we create some, I don't know, because the problems are multifaceted in the sense that we don't have full complement of a semester, as it were. We don't have. And so time are really much against us on that side.
Yes.
So to that extent, I don't know, you have come to Nigeria a number of times, you have interacted with us. Whether you have thought out, haven't known a number of our problems, whether you have thought out some other ways of us doing this issue of feedback, because I think it's very essential. Thank you.
Well, thank you. You raised some very, certainly the problems are enormous. And as I said, I have extreme respect for the faculty members who are dealing with this on a daily basis and have really poured their lives into to making change, into bringing progress, into helping students. And I certainly want to commend and congratulate those of you who've done that. Certainly, I can't say as I said, I can't say I have the solutions. What I get from these comments is that we're all aware of these problems. Let's try to think outside the box. I do think one area that needs to be explored is the online resources, and so of course a web page is no substitute for a living person. It's no substitute, but it can offload some of the busy work that I think many of us find that we are doing that prevents us from more quality, higher quality contact. I think that a lot of us will recognize that we spend a lot of time doing rote things that and we do the same thing again and again and again. And it would be better to find some way to have this done automatically so that we can spend more time in personal contact and mentoring. So that's why I mentioned Khan Academy or this other site, utsumuro.com.
It's okay, Professor Tom. At this juncture, we have to thank you immensely
Oh,
for
thank
this
you.
thought-provoking talk that you have given to us.
Yes, thank
We
you.
hope that our young ones, as well as other colleagues, have learned tremendously from what you have said. And it's a very good thing. We appreciate it because you, as a foreigner, can actually see us. We can't see ourselves. So you have mirrored us and given us that food for thought. And I think all of us will go back and begin to recast and remold ourselves appropriately. Thank
Oh,
you very
thank
much,
you.
Mr.
Thank you.
Prof. Thank you very much. I wish
I
you
hope, but I hope
the
to be joining you sometime soon.
Okay, sorry. With that, we are closing this parent session, hoping for presentation at 11. Just like the organizers have said, Professor Olateru said, by 11 o'clock, there will be presentation will start. So if you are to present, please, you have 1 or 2 minutes left for you to prepare yourself to join on that. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all.
Okay, sorry.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Don't finish. Mo ti sọ fún ọ pé 11.
So we would like to remind everyone of the details to log in for the parallel sessions as posted by Professor Olaleru. Those who want to join the applicable session, the ID is specified. That's 8462063991. And then the passcode is 305199. So that has been sent on the chat box. Those who want to log in for applied mathematics, take note of the ID as well, 830939217040, and the passcode 354040. So please log in with these details and depending. And then also tell others, because some people may have difficulties accessing, especially the applied mathematics session. So please tell others. Thank you very much, and see you shortly at the parallel session. And if you're not presenting, you can join as well to learn more. That will help you or to teach those who are presenting. Thank you very much.
Good morning.